Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who kept us going for over 340 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames Dude of the week is Mexican Fighting Tree.
Thank you, Mexican Fighting
That's a
Tree.
great name.
I literally was my first response. I mean, I've seen the name before, obviously, but yeah, when you're like, hey, Dude of the week is going to be Mexican Fighting Tree, I'm like, what a great name.
I mean, yeah, I think he's been a dude for a long time, so he's been Dude of the week before, but great name. Speaking of great names, we have a super sexy sponsor, and they're the perfect sponsor because we both like to take care of our balls. Of course, we're talking about Manscaped, and it's been a long-running joke about how they would be our only sponsor. And right now, it's Father's Day this weekend.
That's
so
right.
It's the perfect time to pick up their new package, the Platinum Package 4.0. It's got all their ultra premium stuff, their body wash, their 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner, their deodorant, which I actually have out right here. It's become my favorite. It has replaced Old Spice Swagger for me.
Oh,
yeah.
I know Swagger was your thing, but like there's a nice smell in that Manscaped deodorant.
Well, the Swagger had staying power, and the Manscaped deodorant also has staying power, and doesn't feel like a lot of deodorants, especially if you go for antiperspirant, which I don't, but a lot of deodorants last like an hour, and then it just like turns to a goop sometimes in your armpits.
Or hardens.
And I like ones that don't. This doesn't. Feels pretty good and has staying power. It smells good all day long. I haven't worked on set since using it, but like, you know, you have a 12 to 14 hour day, and you can smell like absolute asshole at the end of that day if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
So using the Crop Preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant and the deodorant for your arms, you're not going to smell bad at all. It's pretty fucking sweet. And that premium package, if you're going to be brave and give it to your father or your father-in-law,
yeah,
like
go all in, go all out.
Comes with a carrying bag and pretty much everything you need to take care of you head to toe, or, you know, tip to taint.
Tip to taint.
If you're interested in checking out Manscaped, any of their products, like their boxers or their shampoo, conditioner, and any of their standalone stuff.
I use the shampoo and body wash, you know, on a daily basis right now.
It's good stuff. And it all has that same scent, so it's scent continuity. You're not going to get a bunch of weird scents and stuff.
That is true, yeah. You don't have to worry about which one do I pick, whatever. Like, and it's all the same, you know, good, fresh outdoors. I call it a eucalyptus-y kind of, like
head to taint. It's like a foresty. It's good stuff. I don't know. But if you're interested in checking them out, please go to manscaped.com. Use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's manscaped.com. Our code is YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Thank you, Manscaped. Your balls will thank you.
They thank me every day. I
thank your balls every day. Oh. Sometimes I'm just doing things and I'm like, wow, thank God for Matt's balls.
Okay. Look, I don't know if I'm pleased or frightened.
I like to think that there's somebody out there that's just like, man, Andrew took care of his balls. Thank God for his balls. There's got to be someone out there who, you know, has the misfortune of sleeping with someone who is worse off on their balls than I was. But we're in the Christmas for gamers,
or what used to be, and what kind of still is, but kind of isn't, and it's kind of bizarre because like everything was kind of supposed to be more close knit, but it's kind of not turning out that way in the end. Like
all of June is a celebration for gaming.
Like,
and I think it's just gonna
all of June. It's turning into all of June. Like Sony was the one who came first. So
Cucks.
they shot their pre-cum load pretty fast, and they were
job, though. Sony was.
They did a great job. I mean, they may have come early, but they came hard.
Strong.
And they had
sloppy seconds now.
So
a real wholesome podcast.
As we talked about, they already did the whole Street Fighter 6 is here, RE4 is here, Final Fantasy 16 is here. And then we got word later this week we're going to see possibly some stuff on Remake Part 2. They got a very tiny announcement, I guess, on Thursday from Square. I mean, and then Nintendo has still said dick about what they're doing.
Yeah, nothing's confirmed, right?
Nothing's
it's still
confirmed.
just
The
rumors.
next rumor now is June 29th. That came from Alana Pierce. She used to be a journalist, and then she now works for Sony Santa Monica, and then she said she had it written down for the 29th. And then other people confirmed, said we've heard the same thing. As we were setting up this episode today, we literally had someone come and leak stuff, which never fucking happens. But I'm looking at the screenshots right now for the next Fire Emblem 18, as they're calling it, and he posted straight up screenshots because rumors for that go that like, okay, we know how Koei Tecmo how they helped make the last one, but Koei Tecmo is also bringing in Gust, which is their RPG developer. They make all those Atelier games, all those super weeby, colorful RPGs.
The war on weebs continues. Matt Simmons' war on weebs.
Look, they're weeby games. Weebs would agree with me. Come on now.
Leave the wibs. Leave the weebs alone.
I'm not. Well, whatever. Yeah, bro. I'm playing Xenoblade like nonstop.
LTW. Yeah, you're a weeb.
So yeah, Gust is apparently doing the next Fire Emblem. Apparently, it's done. It's apparently it's a game Nintendo's kind of been sitting on. So I guess they're gonna show the next. This someone somewhere, probably not with Nintendo, probably from within Koei Tecmo, just said, here's screenshots. He's like, the other and waiting for the direct reveal. I've just decided to finally show a bit. So they look really legit. It definitely looks like Fire Emblem by way of Gust on these screenshots. Okay. Here I'll send them over to you. Just I don't know if you could just look at them real quick. But yeah, like the big thing is that the main character has half blue and half red hair, and it's really long, like in Shin Megami Tensei 5. Okay. I personally don't care about the game too much. I mean, I like Fire Emblem. I bought 3 Houses. I enjoyed 3 Houses. It's not that I don't like Fire Emblem. They do have that Fire Emblem Warriors game coming out like next week, but it's not a game that gets me rock hard. You know what I mean? Like oh okay, cool. But it's interesting because that leaked, which never happens for Nintendo stuff. It just doesn't happen. But
that's twice now. That's 2 people that Nintendo's going to blacklist when they find them.
Yeah,
that's 2. Because what was the other guy? The other guy was leaking. What
excuse me.
Bless you.
I hope that doesn't come out too loud. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't have time to
mute. The other guy was leaking, stuff that he said, it wasn't under embargo, and it's like, oof.
Oh yeah, that guy. Well, that wasn't even.
No, it wasn't in NDA, but it was under embargo, and it's like,
yeah. Well, it's funny because that didn't even turn out to be for Nintendo. That was for, I think Summer Games Fest. I think is what it turned out to be, or was it on Microsoft? I think it was on Summer Games Fest. So it was kind of like, but yeah, stupid. Like that. That is your embargo. The embargo is your NDA. I mean, but. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So you know what else got leaked, and it leaked last night. This was funny because the leaker was Sony. They accidentally uploaded their Tactics Ogre Reborn page on the Sony PSN, showing new art, new logo. Oops.
Speaking of Sony's fuck ups, you saw the Tekken debacle, right?
Yeah,
the $10,000.
$10,000 for Tekken 2. Even Harada was like, Sony, what is this price?
I wonder if like you bought that by accident or whatever and got it and then realized and they don't refund you. They're like, no, we're keeping the $10,000.
Some millionaire was just kind of like, you know what? Will this actually go through?
God, that would be so shitty. Yeah, no, I'm sort of amped about the Tactics Ogre. Got a lot of
nostalgia. That's classic. That is like some of the like legit OG tactical or turn-based RPGs. It's what got they literally brought the same people in to make Final Fantasy Tactics after that. So getting Tactics Ogre Reborn, that's awesome actually.
The only reason I ever even got Tactics Ogre is because I thought the name was really fucking cool as a
Mm,
kid. I got it on Game Boy Advance. And I was
yeah.
like, oh, Tactics Ogre.
Was it
The
personal Lordly Caliber or something?
Yeah, it was really cool.
So, yeah, so this one's based on the original Let Us Cling Together or whatever. It's awesome. So, but that's Sony themselves going like, oops, guys, I guess you put that page up a little too early.
Well,
uh,
I don't think anyone's going to be mad at it, and it's just going to get it a
no,
little extra attention. So
yeah,
I'm
exactly,
going to take
and
it.
they'll announce it proper. It looks like Square might be doing their own event possibly as well at the end of the month
Where they're going to
because
show loads of stuff from Final
well
Fantasy.
maybe because like okay so where like okay this was leaked but it's like where was this supposed to be shown since all the stuff's over now, right? um but they also said that they were going to talk about Star Ocean 6 at the end of the month, so it kind of lead me to wondering if maybe they've got something going that we don't know about yet. um Should be interesting, I guess. But I guess we should talk about like stuff that did happen was Summer Games Fest, Xbox, Bethesda, and then the Capcom showcase. Keeley's show was, I feel it was kind of what Keeley said, like temper your expectations, guys.
Yeah.
um, there wasn't a whole lot exciting there. Like they spent. No, I'm sorry, I'm getting my shows mixed up now. Um, the things I know some people were really upset about was like how much time they devoted to Modern Warfare 2, which looked like it was a remake of the first level from COD 4. Um, and I gotta say, like, yeah, I mean, they've been making a yearly COD for like 15 plus years or something now. Yeah, I kind of gotta agree with people here. It's just not exciting anymore to watch guys sneak up onto a boat in a storm and then shoot people. Like,
Yeah, like I love Call of Duty. I really do. I'm
yeah,
too burned out on it. I'm having a hard time. Like the thing is I want to be hyped for it. One, everyone gets hyped for games that they're good at and have nostalgia for, and
mhm.
you know, I get that. I just like I feel like I've become so burnt out on it. It's hard for me to one get really amped up about it. Yes, it's
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful and
Hmm.
it's going to be cool, but like I just I'm really looking for
Yeah,
something new. And I
I,
think my
I, I,
favorite picks from, especially like Xbox, Bethesda, stuff like that are reflective of that. Like my two favorites, which we'll get
mm.
into later, um, is just my
I,
desire for something
I,
new.
I, I will say there were a couple things that look neat. Callisto Protocol's really coming together. Um, that
Bro,
looked really good, and they actually showed
yeah,
a little bit of gameplay at Keeley's thing. And it's Dead Space like almost to a T.
and I'll take it.
And it looks really good. It looks like it's really coming together. There was a Weeby game that looked like the combat might be good called Zoneless Zone Zero. I think it's from the Genshin people. Um,
Well, that would be why the combat's good, right?
Hopefully. Uh, yeah. The big running theme though throughout that whole thing was that how everything there were so many games that were taking place in space. And at one point
Yeah.
during the show, Keeley even said, "Like, yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, yes, there's a lot of space in this conference, this fest." And it was like, yeah, like obviously you knew this before you went live, and it was kind of like, did you ever sit there and think like, why is everyone making a fucking like spooky space horror game? Like what
Oh, because
you
all that
know?
shit happens. I mean, uh, I guess the thing is to remember is like this is a really insular industry. Like
Yeah,
everyone knows what everyone else is working on, even if it's only vaguely.
that's
Uh,
true.
that shit gets around and inspires people. But like the same thing in the movie industry, where someone hears like, "Oh, there's a, we need our Titanic, we need our Avatar, we need
Yeah,
our,
yeah,
what's our competition?" And they come up with something very similar. It's like
yeah.
I get
There
two
were,
movies with the same concept type shit.
and I'm looking at stuff
Olympus
that
Has
I
Fallen, and
completely forgot. I'm just browsing through right now, and I'm like, I completely forgot this game existed, like Fort Solis and stuff. And there was one game that had a bunch of like 80s style futuristic technology, and it was a game apparently that got announced like a decade ago, and then it got Routine was the name of it.
Routine.
And it's like it's a spooky space game, but everything's like really, really like late 70s, early 80s analog horror type of technology.
Which
Oh, how could
I
we
love. Yeah.
how could we forget there was like 4 minutes solid of just a shirtless Rock in his gym shilling his energy drink and then shilling Black Adam.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing a tweet where somebody was just like, I don't know what's going on with The Rock, but he's not making any fucking sense right now. He's all
It,
over the place.
it was a honest to God um very awkward moment because it was just like what is this about? What is he shilling, right? Like
We all know that The Rock is on steroids.
yeah, and then all it ended up being was for Black Adam, and I was just kind of like what? This trailer came out the day before the event as well.
But have you noticed how sweaty he's always? He like always like every video. It's like every cinematographer or every director is all like, "Yeah, let's get him sweaty first."
Yeah.
I'm not saying he himself is always sweaty, but it just seems like every time they shoot something with him, yeah, obviously he was just working out, but like they really go for the sweatiness thing, and you're just like, he's just so veiny and sweaty right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't
Well, it's like
just
it was like Fast Five where he was like profusely sweating
the whole movie,
constantly.
yeah.
The whole movie, yeah. I think the highlights of Keeley's thing were the smaller stuff. There was, and I got to give Jeff credit for like playing into the joke real hardcore. Like the speech he gave before was like part like in on the joke of I don't know if you saw Goat Simulator 3 where he talked about, we're going back to the beach, this game went dark for a long time but it's finally reappearing now. Everyone's thinking it's Dead Island 2. Dead Island 2 and they recreated the Dead Island 2 trailer down to the wire except once zombies started showing up it was replaced with goats with jetpacks headbutting people. Like there was a good troll. I don't know. Like it's a very like insular nerdy troll kind of thing, right? But it's like they recreated the whole trailer for Dead Island 2, which just vanished off the face of the planet,
Yeah, no one's
and
ever
remade
seeing
it.
that again.
Yeah, and remade it with goats. And I like how Jeff played along with it. And Cuphead, they showed like footage of a boss from Cuphead DLC. It's finally coming out, and that was pretty awesome. Shredder's Revenge finally
Yes.
got finalized. It's coming out Thursday. It's gonna have 6 players,
Yep.
local and online. Casey Jones is part of the roster as well.
Does he use
So
the cricket bat or a hockey stick?
he uses both. Like it's dependent on which part of the attack you're doing.
Yes.
So yeah, like they have all 4 turtles, Shredder, April, and Casey as playable characters. 6-player online, and it looks really good.
April's playable?
Yeah, April's a playable character.
What does she use for the weapon?
She does a lot of Chun-Li shit.
Really? Oh, just like kicks and is she? Oh, is she wearing the yellow jumpsuit?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So I should admit that I didn't get to watch the Summer Games Fest.
Well, I mean, April was actually announced. Like, they barely showed April, and because the footage is mostly about Casey. But
Well, I looked at the announcements, but I didn't really get to watch a whole hell of a lot from it. So I
yeah,
feel a little bit naked on that, and everything's running together on announcements for me. I think that's
it,
one thing that like it happened at E3 too, but I guess because I was always taking notes at E3, it was easier to like delineate between announcements. But now that they all have their own events and there's different events and different like, is it hard to keep track of shit?
It is. I'm actually having a trouble because that's why I'm like scrubbing through the Keeley show on my own just to just sort of like refresh memory what was announced when and where. Like I remember a lot of the stuff. Some of it I don't. Like I already forgot the name of the game I said I forgot about entirely.
Did they finally show anything about Wild?
No, Wild's gone.
No. Wild is forever. Wasn't that like one of the hypest games for that year?
Like, Sony was really going in on it.
All about it, and they just never.
There were some games that were like they looked okay. There was a couple things that happened at Keeley show that looked like there was like, oh my god, there was a new Aliens game being shown, and I thought it was like Fireteam Elite DLC, right? No. I'm like, okay, cool, this cool high value presentation Aliens game, and then after they do the whole trailer, it's all cinematic, right? then after the trailer kind of like ends, it cuts back after the title, and they for 2 seconds it's like, oh, it's an overhead isometric shooter, and I was like, oh, hype just immediately deflated.
You don't like isometric shooters?
I just. I thought we were getting a spooky horror like co-op game, and then we're getting a top-down shooter.
I don't know
All
why, but
right,
I love co-op horror.
yeah.
Co-op horror is so good.
There was some other games too where I can't remember if it was Nightingale or something else where it was like, oh, it looks cool. This looks like a cool look a lot like Dark Watch, but like modern graphics and stuff. But it's like it's a crafting resource, survival sim, and I'm like, ah, fuck.
I was just saying this the other day. How I was like, I don't even care when crafting's done well. I fucking crafting.
Yeah, exactly. It was like just ruin my hype for the game. We saw a brief CG trailer for Arc 2 with Vin Diesel riding a T-Rex again.
Yeah.
He had a great Instagram post about that.
Which they showed that at Xbox too, right?
Or maybe that was Xbox.
I
I might be
was,
getting it.
yeah, I guess that was.
You know
Xbox.
what? It might be Xbox. I'm
you know what the one
getting
good
them mixed up.
I know we're not going to talk about Xbox yet, but you know what the one good thing about that is you might actually get to play Ark before it's dominated by a bunch of fucking dudes who have never left home. Like the biggest, I'm not trying to shit on them too bad because we all had that point in our life. For me, I was playing the shit out of COD 4 to the point where it's just like no life. But God, Ark is such a great idea. Granted, yes, lots of crafting. But by the time you got to play it, if you played it after, it was out for even a few months, you were just getting raw dogged all the time.
Yeah.
And not even like online. You'd sign off to go have a sandwich and come back, and all your shit would be destroyed and stolen, and you'd be like spawning in a swamp. So maybe now is like, if you get in on the first couple weeks, you'll get to have a good experience with it.
Maybe, right? I think we should probably talk about it. So they ended the big show with like a 20-minute discussion with Mr. Druckmann about the future of the Last of Us franchise, where they reconfirmed that Last of Us Factions is a multiplayer thing coming, but they're not even going to talk about it till next year. They just showed concept art for it.
Okay.
And then they talked a lot about the HBO show. And Neil Druckmann got to direct one of the episodes, and the actor
bent over a counter.
with that, yeah. They showed a picture of it with Pedro Pascal, and I forget who's playing Ellie. And
I love Pedro Pascal, so
it's
I'm
it's funny. It's funny because I don't know who's playing Ellie. It's who was the actor that they literally sued Naughty Dog, because their likeness seemed a little
Page,
too.
Right?
Was it Elliot? It was Elliot Page. I'm like, yeah, like interesting. Like definitely staying away from that. Not hiring Elliot.
Oh, it's Bella Ramsey.
Oh, that's who's playing her in the show, right?
Yeah, Bella Ramsey is. She was the young northern lady who dies fighting a giant in Game of Thrones. She's like a 10-year-old girl, and she dies getting crushed by a zombie giant while she's staring it down and screaming like
Nice.
a battle cry. Yeah, she goes out hard. That girl can pull off intense. Like there's parts.
That's good.
There's parts in that in Game of Thrones where like she's the most intimidating person in the room because she doesn't give a fuck. Like that 10-year-old girl kills somebody. Nick Offerman plays Bill, by the way.
Sounds perfect for the role. Yeah, I did see Nick Offerman playing Bill. That's actually could work. Troy Baker and I forget the other actor who plays Ellie in game. They're actually going to play significant like speaking role characters in the show as well.
Oh, cool.
Which is that's kind of a nice gesture. And here's the thing, because a lot of people there's a lot of vitriol towards this what came next. And I will say that I actually like the idea of Last of Us being a miniseries. I feel that's what it wanted to be. I feel that's where it belongs. But the big news was, yes, of course, Last of Us Part 1, a remake of Last of Us happening 9 years after the first game on PS5 only, coming out September 2nd. And people are kind of pissed because, well, one, the trailer they showed originally, I was looking at, I'm like, that doesn't look. I mean, I'll admit, I said it too. It doesn't look that much. I'm like, that looks exactly the same. Naughty Dog's done a good job on their own Twitter showing like how different, it does look. Especially some characters got really different. The lady, the older woman who's like the
Tess.
friend of Joel at the beginning of the game, she's got like a completely different character model now. But a lot of people are kind of like, there's no multiplayer, by the way. So Last of Us Part 1 is a $70 release, no multiplayer, but it will have the Left Behind or Last of whatever it was. I forget what the Last of Us DLC was called. The one with Ellie and her one friend. I don't know. She wasn't in the main game. I think she probably dies in the DLC. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, there you go.
It's about how Ellie got bitten.
Oh, okay. So that's part of it. That story DLC's there and the main game's there, but it's a $70. And the thing is, it's like it's kind of rough because Last of Us Remastered, the PS4 version,
which is what I played. Yeah,
it's $10 on PSN on sale right now. And in fact, if you have a PS5, it's free if you have PSN because it's part of the collection you get for free. So it's kind of like, why are we charging $70? I mean, I will. So there's a lot of debate on whether or not, like, is it, it's a remake. Like, to me, it's not debatable about that. Like, some people debate about whether it is or isn't. I'm just saying the thing that you're kind of like what's causing a lot of discussion is the fact that the game looked good on release. The game looks good now. Like, it still is a pretty decent looking game.
Yeah,
that's the problem. You're having diminishing returns because graphics aren't getting that much better.
Well, like
they are, like, but they're also not.
I like Last of Us. I like Last of Us 2. I don't see how we needed the remake here.
Yeah, because it looks like it's a very faithful remake. Like, they did say there will be gameplay additions added to it from 2,
and they
which probably
all the AI and shit like that.
Yeah, so that's probably that's actually kind of exciting if you're into the gameplay of Last of Us, because I'm like, okay, that's actually cool. But yeah, on the other hand, it does also feel like, why did we need this so quickly?
I don't know. I think if they waited another 5 years and then released both games as a remaster or remake, together for $70, would have been kind of fucking amazing. I think if you haven't played Last of Us, which I feel like it's been played pretty.
It's a very, very popular well-selling game. And again, anyone who gets a PS5 can get it for free if they get PSN. Anyone who has a PS4 can get it for $10 on sale digitally.
I was going to say, it's like it's totally worth the $10 to play it. Like, yes, you can cheese the gameplay in it pretty easily. Throw object, run to checkpoint. But if you meet it halfway and play it as it's intended to play, like, I actually think it's good. It's got tension. It's got stuff. And I like the story.
And I think the presentation's always been very, very good in those games, which is why I'm actually excited about the HBO series, because it is a story-driven game. It is a cinematic, story-driven experience. So, getting
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, and getting the guy who did Chernobyl, which I consider one of the best miniseries I've ever seen. I'm like, this is all win. This is all a win to me. Like, this is what it wanted to be originally. Like, so.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity for the show to dig deeper into the characters than the game did, which is kind of funny. The game sort of just asked you to accept some things, made some leaps that people like to make fun of. Even though I don't necessarily agree with it, but like, there is stuff that, like, people made fun of that the show will be able to address more in detail, I think.
Yeah, and that's strength of a film versus game, because even Last of Us 2 kind of got to that point where it felt like there were parts early on in the game where I was like, it's so cinematic. Like, there's so many long drawn out, like, cinematic sequences of, Joel's going to talk to Ellie in her cabin, and it's just like this very, long drawn out scene that's done very well, but it's also like, if you're more of an arcadey kind of gamer, you're kind of like, when are we going to get to the actual game part? And it's like,
yeah, well,
it doesn't want to be a video game.
You're in the
it wants to be a mini
son.
series. And I'm not saying they and here's the thing, I don't want to say like, oh, this game sucks because of that, or they shouldn't make games like this. No, it just is one of those things that just very clearly to me feels like you don't want to be. You're in the wrong. You're just kind of in the wrong medium. If you want to make a game like you want to stick to this, like no, we make games that are cinematic adventures. Cool, sells really well. I'm not trying to like knock or remove something from the market because it's like I don't want everyone to have the same taste as
And
me. I really don't.
it's a hell of a lot better than say like David Cage's cinematic adventures.
Yeah, where they're clunky and they're awkward and it's Dave Cage. So granted, like yes, it's like Last of Us versus say like a Heavy Rain. It's like I'm taking Last of Us every time. So it's like that. So,
Druckmann over Cage every time.
yeah. One's a little egotistical. The other is
insane.
We'll let the courts decide that one day.
Yeah, insane and abusive apparently. I don't really know.
Yeah. The other is David Cage.
But yeah, the Bethesda.
Yeah, the Xbox Bethesda showcase, 95 minutes. So Keeley's was 2 hours, just under 2 hours. Microsoft 95 minutes. These were both long, and it wasn't that they were sitting there like talking about shit you didn't care about, like schematics or like sales projections or whatever. It was mostly about games. I will say there were a couple moments in the Xbox that really could have been trimmed down. There was kind of an overly like not too long like Forza Horizon reboot was like just pushing it right as far as like you're kind of here for a while. Redfall also at the beginning was just kind of pushing, like we're lingering on this a little too long.
Well, I hadn't seen a lot about Redfall, so I was actually interested in watching some shit about Redfall.
Yeah, it wasn't, but then it started to feel like they're just kind of like regurgitating like info or like cutting to like montages, and it's like
Forza, I don't give a shit about driving games, and so
and the other weird thing with Forza was like, hey, we're gonna like do this long lingering shot on this stream running to the side of the racetrack and show you our ray tracing, and I'm like, no one's gonna see this in the racing game.
No, but I mean, like that's what those games are about, really, is showing off tech.
Right.
A lot of the time, they're
but it is kind of just like that. That's amazing. Why?
And
you're putting it in a racing game.
I continue to be jazzed for the Forza team, even though I was such a douchebag to them. But I'm always nowadays, especially, I'm always rooting for Forzas to just keep coming. Not because I like them, I truly don't. It's not even that I dislike them; I just don't play them. But love that they have continuity of working, and they get to make the shit they love. They love cars, they love games, they get to make them all day long. Fuck yeah, man! I'm all for it. I figured because it's so long, we would just talk about some highlights.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, though. I want to say, though, those were pushing it. I think Diablo 4 and Starfield went way over time. Like, they wore out their welcome hard.
Well, Diablo, I'll definitely agree with. Because
the cinematic trailer was so long, like way longer than it needed to be, and then they were like, here's another 10 minutes of like or at least another few minutes of gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just to announce the Necromancer class, and it's like they also did technically announce the release date, right? So it's like, okay, like there was, I guess, significance there. It's coming out next year, whatever. Yeah, and Starfield. Okay, this has to be the crux. This is the crux of the episode. Okay, I don't get you Bethesda people, like at all. Like it, and I'm admitting about that. Like I don't get, but like these, like I do not understand the appeal of these games. Like I can sort of surface level appreciate the world building aspect because they're very dense and there's a lot of world building that goes into them. Sure, no matter how much you love that Bethesda games, I don't know how you look at that Starfield footage and go that looked great. Because that did not look great. That looked rough, and like
Well, wait,
I've seen
rough and how? Like the concept is
the frame rate, and then the optimization,
yeah, it's a
and it
Bethesda
got
game.
delayed because and that's kind of like a lot of people just, well, it's a Bethesda game. I'm like, that's no excuse any longer.
Bethesda
I'm
is about,
sorry.
but I think a lot of Bethesda games like that are about ambition more than polish.
Right. But there's been other people like, and here's the thing, I want to say this, I want to be genuine here. Bethesda's a pioneer. They were super ambitious in the 3D space before anyone else was, especially to their scale. The scale of the games they were making was way beyond the ambition of anyone else at their time 20 years ago, 15 years ago, right? And I don't want to take that away from them, but like other people have caught up, and Bethesda's now like now they just look rough in comparison.
Well,
And for me, and there is still things that are unique to Bethesda, like for example, the heavy embracing of the modding community, which is fantastic, but it also feels like they're letting others finish their games for them. Like at least in Skyrim's case, like Jesus Christ,
and in Fallout 4 for sure. I just I'm playing Fallout 4 again for shits and giggles, and the first half hour of it on PS5 is basically unplayable. You have to you have to pause the game to let the dialogue play, and then unpause it in order to be able to continue with the. Yeah, it's only the first half hour so far that did that, but that first half hour is fucking brutal.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's busted as fuck. They don't care. They don't care at all.
So the reports that came out before this conference was that the game, because this game was supposed to come out November 11th, like it had a hard date.
Yeah.
And the reports were they did officially delay it, and the rumblings coming out of this was that the developers were pleading to upper management at Bethesda to tell Microsoft this is not ready. And they're like, if you try to force this on release this year, it will be Cyberpunk 2.0, they said. And it looked like Cyberpunk 2.0 at this presentation.
No, I'd say that I think the two very fair criticisms are that, yeah, the frame rate is junky. And I would say that the first-person combat is basic as shit. It's basic. There's nothing. They're not.
Yeah, and Max kind of told me that because he's like, I don't care about medieval fantasy that much, but I've always been a space guy, and he thought, well, maybe this will be the game where like I might be more interested because it's like really hard sci-fi. And then I saw him shoot a person, and then I immediately was like, yeah, no, definitely not for me.
The thing about it is like. For me, it's the exploration and building your ship and that kind of thing that I really dig this concept for. And
there's a lot of
Skyrim too. Right?
Yeah, well, a lot of people were saying that like, oh, they're ripping off No Man's Sky and around. I'm like, well, okay. We like, yes, they spent a lot of time on this presentation, but I don't think it's fair to say it's a ripoff of No Man's Sky yet, right? I don't know. I don't. I feel like they're going to be different enough.
It could be, but that's like you want to know what the draw is to Bethesda games. It's the, exploring of the fantasy world that they put so much into it, and like that shit has a draw, and now it's going to be in space. So I am interested in it, but I do agree that it had some rough moments.
And again, the idea is, I think the idea of Starfield is very cool. It's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
Maybe getting Todd to talk about it for so long is not the greatest idea. He's sitting there telling you there's going to be 1,000 planets you can explore, and I'm like,
yeah, I hope not.
Okay, Todd. So you mean there's about 20 or less biomes, and there's a bunch of procedurally generated empty worlds. Great, fantastic.
Which was really the problem with No Man's Sky when it first came out.
Yeah,
every planet you went to was just like a randomly generated fucking mess. With nothing to do on it. And also he says in a later interview about Fallout 6 or Fallout 5 rather, like that they didn't even talk about that at the Xbox thing.
He said it's going to come after Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. So they didn't
He basically just confirmed their timeline basically, and we're going to do Starfield, and we're going to do Elder Scrolls 6, and then it's going to be Fallout 5, which is it's kind of non-news.
40 by the time.
If anything, the biggest news was the fact that he said that they decided early on in development there is no flying in or off planet. You just load into space, or you load onto the planet. There's no flying down onto the planet or flying up out of the atmosphere.
Well, it could be a cinematic,
Yeah, I
like
see.
Mass
That's the
Effect,
thing
like,
I was kind of like wondering. I'm like, well, why didn't you just have like sort of like a fake loading screen, of them like the
yeah,
ship is just kind of like
a la
going
Mass
through
Effect.
clouds and just yes, like I was kind
They're
of
gonna
really
have
surprised
that.
to hear that where he's like they exist as separate realities. So
Nah,
those were
they're gonna have some sort of fucking
those were
connection.
his words, is that they exist as separate realities. So it's just kind of like you're on the planet, you're loaded into that planet, and then like you get in the ship and then you load into space.
I took that to mean that you're not gonna like just be able to fly down through the clouds and manually land your ship wherever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't take that to mean that like you click on the planet and then you just a loading screen happens with no context and you just like
I think
walk
there'll be
off
like a
the
little
ship.
cinematic, not first, maybe not even
Yeah.
first person, of just your ship just taking off.
Yeah, that's what I
And the
think
ship
is
just
gonna happen.
flying in and landing.
Because think about
And
how fucking difficult it would be.
well, the streaming technology, Jesus.
That'd be over the top. I don't think you could do that reasonably.
Well, we have to wait longer than this game's taking for that. I don't know. It'd be a tall order. I feel like, yeah, there's ways to cheese it and make it still feel seamless, and maybe they are going to do that because the game's not done. Definitely not done from this showcase. Uh, where, where I would be like, as you're getting close to a planet, like, a little thing comes up on like your ship's HUD, and it's like, where on the planet do you want to land? And it kind of just, as you're loading in, it just sort of like fakes it while going through clouds, and then when you come out of the clouds, you're coming into the part of the planet you selected, and it's always the same sort of spawning point in the air, right? And then you can just manually determine where you want to land after you've loaded into the sky and it's always going to be the same point in the sky that you load into. You just choose this part of the continent, like east, west, north, south.
I don't even think they're gonna do that. I think you're just gonna
No,
like,
I don't.
it's
But
gonna
I
be
think
like a
you could
capital
do
city.
that. Yeah, I think you could do that, and it could work. But fuck, man, because I was like, I mean, I figured, okay, I guess they're gonna end on Starfield. It's their big game. Um, Fuck, it looked rough. Like, it was shocking to me how unpolished it looked.
Give them time.
Not for a Bethesda game, but for a Microsoft show ender. This is because this was Microsoft putting their dick onto the table and saying, "Look how big this is." This is them basically saying, like, "Yeah, what you gonna like? Oh, you got God of War, Sony. I got Starfield," and it's like, man, this did not look good.
Yeah, I
This
mean,
did not look good. It definitely didn't look ready in any shape or form. So I guess one thing you could say, the only positive you could take away from this is that it doesn't feel like they're bullshitting you, with the state of the game. Like, no, this is the game. This is what it looks like. This is how poorly it runs. This is why it's not coming out right now.
this is why it's being optimized. Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah,
I
so
could say that as a plus.
that could, and I would. I mean, I don't know if Todd or anyone else has actually said that, like, actually on record. But I feel like that would be the best thing to say. Like, here's the game. It doesn't have a very good frame rate because it's still a year away, and we're not done optimizing it. And we're just going to be honest with you. It's not finished. Because Cyberpunk was always showing, what looked like finished gameplay year out, 2 years out, whatever. And the game came out and it was a fucking trash fire. So
Yeah, well, I mean, and CD Projekt Red's it's gonna take them a long time to recover from that bloody
yeah,
mess. I do think, being honest, it would have been the better choice. They could have just been like, "Hey, we got a lot of polishing to do, and that's why it's delayed," and that would have bought them time. But
how did you feel about the look of it? I thought it looked ugly as sin, but then again, most of Bethesda's games do too. Like,
I
and
think they were going for
not
something
even from a
gritty.
graphical standpoint, from an artistic standpoint, I guess.
I think they were definitely going for that gritty future grime.
Yeah,
Uh,
like there was that Tom Cruise movie Oblivion where everything was gray and silver
yeah,
and white.
yeah, yeah. It had that with a little bit less slick tech.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like Oblivion, but without the slick
There was
technology.
some shots of like the more seedy looking planets in the montage footage, and I thought that looked actually really cool.
Yeah.
But I thought some of like the generic, he lands on a rocky gray planet and he starts lasering a wall for ore. I'm like, you're not helping your cause with your No Man's Sky comparisons there. Um,
Yeah, well, I think that No Man's Sky had to have at least had influence on this game.
oh, I had to have that,
Uh,
but I just I
if they
don't think
try to
it's
say
fair to
otherwise, they're
say.
liars. But it's not a
Yeah,
copy, I don't think.
I don't think it's going to be, and I don't think it's going to be a copycat either. But I can say definitely, I'm like, am I excited about this game? Definitely not.
And you're not
It
excited by Redfall?
no,
I don't know.
maybe.
It's co-op. It'll be fun.
Well, here's the thing. I have Game Pass. Am I going to play it? Yeah, probably. I
Well,
have
yeah,
Game
and
Pass.
you need
Uh,
content.
I like the idea of Redfall. It's basically Lost. It's fucking Lost Boys.
Yeah, it's I mean it's made by the BioShock guys, right? BioShock team?
Arcane, Dishonored.
Oh,
Um,
Dishonored. Okay, yeah. Actually, yeah, now that you say that, I can see that. Um uh, but the thing is like it's got co-op. It's you're fighting vampires and their goons.
yeah,
Yeah, all
and
right.
they
It's going
said
to be
there
fun.
would be a legit single player experience behind the game. They came out like today and said that. Um, it didn't look terrible. But it definitely,
Yeah, it doesn't stand out necessarily. I think it looks good though. Like I think visually it looks good.
yeah.
Like I liked
And
the look of
Dishonored
it.
looked nice too. It looked interesting for its visuals and stuff too as well. So,
Yeah, I stopped
uh,
playing Dishonored 2 because of the talking to themselves thing.
which he didn't do in the first game. He didn't talk at all in the first
I
game.
know, it was great. Like I
It
don't
was great.
well, I
They
just
actually had
like
to.
I don't need a constant monologue of like what I should do next. It
Well, they
almost
had to
drove me nuts on
patch. Apparently,
Horizon.
they patched Horizon 2,
Yeah,
like from the launch game. Like apparently, like Aloy talks to herself constantly.
constantly.
So they actually patched out like lowered her response, like her talking to herself, like a bunch in some of the later patches, just because everyone was like, this lady does not shut up.
Yeah, no, it's like this trend now in games. I've noticed it in like every fucking game coming out in the last few years, where it's just like every protagonist talks to themselves. And I know it's to like give you hints on what you're supposed to do,
Yeah.
but just give me a fucking pop up, dude. Like,
Yeah, I actually kind of like it, like with like in Xenoblade Definitive and 2. There's like you just press R, like you press the R trigger, and this little fucking text box comes in the corner and goes, "This person was heading here to do this." Like that was what your current mission was.
I guess I
Like
should
it'll even
find a
have like little
ladder.
highlighted, like, character heading to highlighted space to do this. Oh yeah. And then like press tab it and like hit the trigger again, it goes away.
You don't want to hear your main character being like, "Well, I need to find a way up there.
Gotta find a way up there.
I guess I could find a ladder or a box."
Could always use stock up on more medical berries.
Well, I'm gonna have to get up there. God damn it! Shut up! Just stop it. I don't want. You know what game I was kind of? There's a couple of games that I was actually surprised, and they're my highlights. My two games that I was like, oh okay, High on Life. I mean, it's Rick and Morty humor and shit like that, but it just looks
Well,
like
there's
a
a bunch.
weird.
There's actually a bunch of celebrities for all the different guns.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's gonna have a lot of weird humor and meta humor, shit like that. But like, I just sort of like the wacky, weird shooter
Yeah.
concept. I don't know.
You
We'll
you
see.
know what it reminded me of? I said it like, and some people immediately agreed. It reminds me of Oddworld: Stranger's Wrath.
Oh yeah, well, it's in that. It's like the Earthworm Jim Oddworld vein of like
Yeah, because that one had
humor
like
and
the guns with the live ammunition, little
yeah.
fur balls you'd put on your gun and fire them out.
What do they? Yeah, what do they call them? Gatikins, or what do they call those guns in High on Life now? Or
Yeah, you're right. It was called something like that.
Gatoids or shit like that. But that game had me surprised. I was kind of like, not only does it look kind of cool because it's so many shooters tend to go for that gritty
Yeah.
photoreal, and this was just like, here's a wacky cartoon world where you shoot the shit out of
Yeah, it
things.
kind of had that Sunset Overdrive flair to it, where it's
Yeah,
like, hey, here's a video game.
it's bright
Um,
colors.
Frank the Plant from Harley Quinn is one of the voices I
Yes,
recognized.
that's amazing.
I don't know if they're going to be guns, but apparently Mike and Rich from Red Letter Media are characters in the game.
Hell yeah.
So,
Then the other one was Last Case of Benedict Fox.
that looked great.
That did look great.
That looked great.
Yeah.
That was a cool as fuck looking. I don't know, Gothic Victorian era horror Metroidvania looking.
Well, it has eldritch horror or cosmic horror type elements to it that I was just kind of like, yes, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
that actually did look really good. I'll say, I'm gonna say to you what I said kind of before, and then and to you know, to other, like to Max and other people, and that is, I feel like Xbox still has a bit of a problem in sort of getting out of its bubble a bit, like there, because someone was asking me, or I think he listens, Cyber Knight was asking, he's like, are you gonna stick around for the PC game show afterwards? And I feel like I just did watch the PC game show.
ooh.
Gaming show. Like there was a segment where it was the only segment I thought, and Max, like, he caught it too, where I'm like, the only time Phil came out was to talk about Japan, because I think Phil's well aware that there's like there's a big hole in sort of Xbox, and it's still like they sort of really haven't caught on, to Asian game markets, or like Asian game developers, right?
Enter Wo Long, yeah.
Yeah, well, long, which coming out on everything,
Mm-hmm.
same day. It's not exclusive. It's not a money hat in any way. It's just it's coming out on everything. So that's kind of like that's almost like a non-issue. Like that could have showed up anywhere. It's going to be on Xbox. Like they just got to announce it. Neat, I guess. And then the same is the deal with the Persona games, like Persona 3 Portable, 4 Golden, 5 Royal. They're like, oh, it's coming to Xbox and Windows Store. It's also coming to everything else same day. The only thing that was, sort of like, this is why you bought bought Xbox, get Game Pass, is that he announced a game with Kojima, who was quick to tell you it's not coming out anytime soon. And that's cool. And part of me is just kind of like, I was really kind of hoping to see, it's neat, but I don't know. There's something that feels like, I still feel like Phil's getting a little shafted a bit, right? Like we got the Persona games on Game Pass, and I'm like, great, you got a PSP game and a PS Vita game and a 2-year-old port of a PS5 game or PS4 game.
Well,
cool, I guess. Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I think that Xbox is going to try and buy a Japanese developer.
Yeah.
I think they're not done buying, because for whatever reason they have a really hard time.
Because nobody in Japan wants to sell. They especially don't want to sell to a foreign entity, especially if it's American. It's like we joke about it, but it's kind of fucking true. There's even laws in Japan that like against being bought out by American entities. Would you be like, oh, they have laws against specifically other countries? Like, yes.
Which, I mean,
yes, they do.
Not necessarily a bad thing, depending on the reasons why they did it. But like, I could see Xbox making a deal with Konami for their IP or something like that sort of idea.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like, if they can't get a whole developer publisher to bite, I think they need to do what Nintendo did, and I'd like to see more of it. Like what they did. I'm basically what I'm asking for is exactly what they're doing with Kojima, which is go in and fund a major project that otherwise wouldn't get funded. The Bayonetta 2 this shit, Bayonetta 3 this shit. I'm like, that's what I kind of wish Microsoft was doing more, and because yes, I know they want to own wholesale. They would love to own wholesale a thing, and honestly, like as far as like Microsoft goes, like I still think Sega would be in their best interest, because that gets a lot of stuff. That covers a lot of stuff for Microsoft. Japanese game development covers more family friendly affair with Sonic stuff. But Sega's not going to.
The biggest problem they have is they don't do anything with the content they already own. Look at all the
Sega or Microsoft.
Microsoft. Look at all the rare IP
both.
that they.
Because I was going to say, because both is true.
But look at all the rare IP that they could do stuff with, and they just don't.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. They just
I think the problem Microsoft is having now is that like you buy a studio, you buy a publisher, right? here's the problem. If you don't have the physical people there to make the stuff, it doesn't really matter. Like Microsoft bought Rare, and then they kind of like slowly trickled out all the talent out of Rare, and they all just kind of like bled off and left. And those who stuck around, eventually they got to make Sea of Thieves and became, do something they were all really rallied behind and loved. But here's the thing: Microsoft is a kind of it's a Sea of Thieves studio, and now and Everwild, which had to get rebooted because that director left, and we didn't even see that there. So it's like Microsoft has Rare, and you're right, they haven't done anything with the IPs just because they kind of let Rare kind of go to waste. And they finally are doing something with Perfect Dark, although that's getting rebooted. That had to get rebooted too, according to rumors.
Yeah.
It was really nice to see that we're going to do Perfect Dark again. Because reports at the time were back when they got bought, they actually canned Perfect Dark 3, I guess you could call it. I don't know what you would. 2, 3, however you want to look at it. Because they said, we already have Halo, we already have Gears of War. We don't need another shooter series. And I'm like, well, I think you're kind of missing the point of what Perfect Dark can be. Because there's a lot more going on there. There's like stealth, there's puzzle elements, there's all kinds of ways you can go with Perfect Dark. It doesn't have to be a military shooter.
Yeah, it can be like a spy thriller shooter.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what they're kind of going for anyways with the new Perfect Dark reboot. So, I think there's still part of me that kind of feels a little bit like I can't say that Phil's not trying, because Atlas has always been a tough nut to crack. They're always very insular. They never want to do anything. They don't trust PCs because people can hack and cheat on PCs. Like whatever. Like it's kind of like, well, if people could hack and pirate our game easier on PC, we're not going to put it on PC. So you're going to miss out on 1 million extra sales because 300,000 might pirate it off those millions. Like, bro.
I don't know. It's one of the reasons why an argument against piracy, like piracy isn't money on the table that got stolen. It's people who are never going to buy your shit anyway.
Yeah,
so look at it as advertising.
I mean, some might, but it's like it's because we've known some pretty heavy pirates in our day.
Oh, absolutely.
And I always remember thinking in my head, like, let's say they lost access. They get their consoles bricked. Then the very next day, like they were unable to play any pirated game ever again for whatever magical reason. Would they have bought any of the games they pirated? Nope.
Almost definitely not. Yeah.
Because they barely played the games they pirated.
Oh yeah,
they played them for like 10, 30 minutes at most, and that was it. They called it a day at that. So.
Which everybody should have took as a sign of the downsides of things like Game Pass, is people aren't going to give games much of a chance. You're gonna have a very small window to capture someone's attention.
I mean, I've given games way more of a chance on Game Pass than not, but it's like if I lost if I cancel my subscription to Game Pass, are there any games on Game Pass I'm gonna go and buy that I wouldn't? No, not really.
No, but if you bought the game, if you did buy the game, and the first hour of it's but then you get into it and you're like, oh hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you might still love that
You're more
game.
like, right. The idea is that you're more likely to stick with the game if you've invested more money into it.
In Game Pass, if you're 15 minutes in and you're like, meh, you'll move on. So you might not play that game. And I think that's what happened to a bunch of pirates, is like they have access to so many things that 15 minutes in, they're like, fuck it. Throw the disc away. Whatever. But okay, so we should end on, well, did you have any other highlights? I thought
Xbox,
Cocoon.
No. I mean, there
Cocoon
was stuff
like
that Xbox I liked. Which one?
Cocoon. It looks like that Rime-esque, just explore.
Oh yeah.
That seems like a rally.
That's done by the Limbo people.
Yeah, is it the Limbo people or just the Limbo studio? Like, is it the Limbo team or is it?
Yeah. It's that Limbo inside.
Hell yeah, I like both those games. I just
probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think we'll be happy with that.
There was stuff that was like that looked neat or good there at Xbox, but I have to really say that I'm like, I was kind of really hoping for like a big. I wanted Microsoft to come out with a big win for things that are not PC gaming related, right? Like not outside of the general overhead /RTS / style and the first person style. Like I know there's like Forza, whatever, right? And Diablo's not RTS, Diablo's straight up action RPG, but like again, like this is all just so much of Microsoft's conference is games that could easily be played on a mouse and keyboard. Like in fact, would be played better, and I'd even argue are probably played better on a PC.
Diablo.
And that's kind of the weird thing right there, where it's just kind of like I wanted a game to really like hell yeah, this console, yes. Rather than I'll just get it on Steam, or technically my Game Pass covers PC. It's the ultimate one, so
yeah. Well, that's what I have.
that's what I'm saying. It's like it's still at the same point. It still felt like I was just watching a PC show. But then I guess we'll talk about like there was the Capcom showcase.
Yeah, that's what we should end on is the Capcom showcase.
And a lot of it's weird how many people I saw upset that they didn't announce X game, whatever game. And I'm like, but they said it was only going to talk about announced games. Why are you upset at Capcom for not announcing games when they said they weren't going to announce new games?
To be fair, loads of people don't pay attention to the news at all. They just watch the event. So
craziness.
they didn't know that shit.
And it's weird. I'm conflicted, and I think the confliction comes from bias, because I'm most interested in Street Fighter 6 and Resident Evil 4, and they showed fucking nothing on those games.
Oh, because they already blew that hype load.
So, but for Sunbreak, for Monster Hunter, it's really cool. We got a nice big breakdown of what's coming. Demo announced with it. It's up now.
I've tried to care about Monster Hunter. I just can't.
I mean, that's cool. Exo Primal got a lot more info. It's getting a closed network test. You could sign up for it.
Still, the concept of that game makes me laugh so hard.
Right, like it looks like some goofy shit.
Just
and I said I don't know
from the sky, like
yeah, I don't know how I feel about that game until I play it. I need to put my hands on the controller and control it. How does it feel to move around and kill dinosaurs? Because if it's a funny concept, but if it controls like ass, it's not going to be interesting. And they had
is it gory? Do you chop dinosaurs' heads off and rip tails off and shit like that?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some blood, but I don't know about like dismemberment. That's probably too much for it to handle because there's a billion of them on screen. So I'm very doubtful about dismemberment.
Weak.
And then they had a whole lot of shit. Oh, they dicked over Dragon's Dogma fans. They literally had a whole segment where it's like, we have Dragon's Dogma. It has an anime and a comic book, and it sold a bunch of copies. Bye. Like,
aren't you excited?
Like, are you gonna tease part 2? Nope. We're gonna.
Be excited.
Are you gonna talk about it? Like, well, we're gonna have a video that's gonna be a documentary about how it came to be. But what about the next game? Like, why do you bother bringing up Dragon's Dogma just to say it turned 10? Like, that's all you did was you said Dragon's Dogma turned 10. Big fucking deal. Like,
they just wanted to get you hard about just Dragon's Dogma generally. I don't know.
Like, it's just that was the most bizarre thing to me. I'm like, why did you drag Itsuno out for this? Like, if you're not announcing a new game, why are you just sitting here to tell us it turned 10? Jesus Christ. Like, so weird. And then they had a bunch of shit on RE8 DLC, which they've been holding back for a while. And that was the exciting stuff. And the most exciting thing to me was actually that they're adding a third-person mode to RE8.
Yeah, I'm pretty down with that.
And to me, that is a really, really, really cool thing and reason to go back and replay the game. And then they had Shadows of Rose, the DLC campaign, which is all third person only, not even first person, third person only. I'm whatever about it.
And Shadows of Rose takes place years and years
16 years after RE8.
And
so, like,
two things that I got from it that I'm not really sure how I feel about, is it's her going through the castle or village.
Right. Well, she's doing a little psychic mold link thing
to her father, right?
To something, I guess. She's not physically going to the places. It's their out for, like, we're not going to design a new environment for the DLC. We're going to reuse the old environment. How do we explain that after the army blew it the fuck up? She's going through the memories of the mold. Okay. All right, whatever. whatever.
But the merchant is there
Yeah,
and is a
so
baddie.
it's all mind palace shit. It's none of it's actually like physically happening. So I'm like, okay, there was some other thing. Oh yeah, they're adding Max and Lady D to the
Yeah.
multiplayer, the mercenaries.
People are amped about playing as Lady D.
Like
Getting in it.
she's choke slamming one of the big like werewolf dudes, and you just collectively everyone on the internet is like, I wish that were me.
Get it.
9 foot tall.
Let me be a
Whatever.
man flesh.
Whatever.
Sit on me,
Reverse. They're
queen.
like also Reverse will be out the same day. Goodbye. They didn't want to
Yeah.
talk any more about that.
Steve came so hard.
But they didn't even show anything new. They were like, oh, our Reverse will be at the same day.
Look, that's all he needs. He's
it.
a man of faith. Reverse is coming,
He's
finally. It's the only thing he
Yeah,
cared about.
and then there was the big thing at the end with RE4, where the only thing there was a different shot at the end of the trailer with Leon, both in the car and standing around in the village during like what would presumably be the bingo scene. And then they literally showed him walking through the forest, go under barbed wire, and walk up to a house. Cut. So they showed about like 20 seconds of new RE4 footage, and didn't explain anything at all else about the game.
Good.
Just like we're gonna honor the original game and make sure it's great, and then here's the opening plot line. I'm like, no, my god,
but it does look good. It
What?
does.
It's one of those like, why did you bother showing up if you're not gonna show anything more? Like, why?
I know. I'm still always happy to see a nipple. It's not the whole titty, but I saw the nipple, and it still makes me kind of happy.
Because the thing for me is like, I really want to see how the core gameplay loop is. Are we still going to be able to do stuns into melees, and then knife them while they're on the ground? Like that is the loop of RE4 is stuns, melee, knife.
No, it's going to be RE2 remake.
Yeah, if it's like RE2, I think that's a huge fucking mistake. If it's like RE2 remake,
I don't think it's going to have any of the action elements that made RE4 what it was.
I think that's and I'm worried about that, and I think that's a big mistake. I think that's a huge red flag to me. I'm like,
they are very clearly bringing it in line with the remakes and the fucking RE8.
This is not gonna be a fun, action movie that knows it's a video game. It really is just going to be a serious game for serious gamers looking to have a serious time seriously.
Will it still be good? Will it be
I think
good
so.
on its own merits? And I think yes.
I think yes. And I think a lot of people don't think. I don't think a lot of people think, "Oh, you hate it." I'm like, I think it'll be a good game on its own merits. I don't think it'll be better than the original. I think that's a tall order for any video game.
No. And we have so many remakes of the original, or updates of the original. Like, fuck it, I don't need that.
Well, and then you have that HD version. You have that HD mod, and you need nothing else.
So good, yeah.
You need nothing else in your life.
Yeah, I don't need it, so I'm fine with them making it its own thing.
So yeah, will it be its own? Like taken on its own, will it be good? I think it will be. I think it'll be a good game on its own. And I'm excited to see new places. I don't want to see just old places with better graphics. Like, I want to see brand new areas, maybe brand new bosses, maybe brand new encounters.
Well, we've talked
that's what I want to see.
They're probably gonna cut stuff. We've talked about that.
Oh yeah, the game's gonna get butchered as far as like a 1-to-1. Like, will it be the same scale? Will it have the same amount of areas? No fucking way.
I think they're gonna combine a lot of areas. They're gonna make
I think enemy types will get pushed up and into different areas. Like, I think regenerators will probably be in the castle, or or somewhere else.
That's what we've talked about. We think that the most likely place to get cut is Island.
The island.
It just makes the most sense.
Island's getting cut 100%. But I think there's things from the island that may show up elsewhere in the game, like put it over here, there.
The minigun.
I hope I don't. Here's my biggest fear. I kind of have a feeling. Well, I have a feeling Krauser's not even going to be in the game, so I don't think you're going to get like that crazy knife fight with him. I don't even think Krauser's going to be there. I don't know if Salazar's going to be in the game, because it literally could just be Sadler. So Salazar may not be there, and if Salazar is not there, is the Verdugo missing as well, like the Preda alien.
Mm.
Like, man, there's a lot because there's nothing about Salazar that I don't know if there's any way to make him work in a serious tone and setting. That's just kind of the problem. Like everything about Salazar is goofy as fuck.
Yeah. I mean,
And
we'll
I don't
see.
know how you make that serious. And I think they're just not gonna try. But that worries me because I'm like, bro, that Verdugo fight, the Preda alien stalking you, while you're waiting for the elevator to come and power on. I'm like, that's pretty fucking awesome. I'd really be bummed if that doesn't make it in.
There's no way. There's no way the Pred alien's gonna make it in though.
You don't think? Do you think Verdugo's out?
Yeah, I kind of think it is.
Yeah, it's kind of what I fear. And like, again, yeah, just those are my fears. Like no Salazar, which means no Verdugo, no Krauser.
They'll switch it to that Wolverine guy that's stalking you.
Yeah, well, the Garador.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have like him or like a because they had two versions of him. They had one in full suit of armor, and he was a real pain in the ass to kill.
Yeah, he was. Fuck that guy. So final thought. Anything surprised you over the last few days? Anything that you were like, oh, hell
nothing,
yeah.
nothing like shocked me to my core.
Well, nothing shocked me to my core, but I'll tell you what, I really was delightfully surprised by Last Case of Benedict Fox.
Yes,
I was.
At first, I was like, "What's?"
this?
I was like, "What's this?" And and it kind of just kept getting better.
Yeah.
It was one of those trailers where it like starts out okay, what's this? Some indie shit, and then it just kept looking better and better and better. It was one of those like, well, wow, this trailer gets better as it goes along kind of deals.
Yeah, I mean, of all of the stuff, of all the announcements, and it's actually been like a pretty awesome June. Like it's just there's been a lot of great stuff announced. But Callisto Protocol
to me has been one of the most because I was like whatever like it's a spooky space horror game. It's originally was going to be in the PUBG universe. And I was like I really don't care about this.
Yeah.
I mean not because they dropped it, but just when I saw it and when they re-showed it and then I saw the gameplay, I was like, this looks good. This looks really good.
The Last Case of Benedict Fox, and I'm delightfully surprised by Redfall. I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't expecting to give a shit about it at all.
Well, someone in my chat when I said, "Oh, I kept calling it Left for Vampires," he's like, "Actually, from like that's not how it is. It's actually more like Destiny, and they're just mismarketing the hell out of it. It's not a stage-based shooter. It's like a progression-based shooter."
Okay.
I was like, "Oh, really? Like it's interesting. Like so they're kind of like they kind of got off on the wrong foot on when they first showed it like a year ago or whatever it was."
Yeah, I mean, when they first showed it, like it was entirely forgettable to me when I first saw it.
Yeah.
And so this was genuinely, I was kind of like, oh, actually, and knowing that it's co-op and stuff, like I want more co-op games. I think recently I've just been wanting that, and so
yeah, it's getting harder and harder for me to enjoy competitive stuff. Like I did a beta for a game called Rumbleverse, and I
had a hard
that's
time.
It's a 3D brawler battle royale.
Huh.
So it's basically get third partied, if you know what I mean when I say get third partied or
constantly. Yeah, that's my entire life in Smash.
Yeah, or get cookied constantly, like the game.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
So yeah, it's kind of like honestly for me one of the biggest surprises, and it's not. And again, we're gonna go all the way back to last episode. Final Fantasy 16 looking like it's playing like Devil May Cry.
That's true too. Actually, I was surprised by Final Fantasy 16.
Devil May Cry and even in not Evilist to me is just like yeah, this is real exciting. Like. Well, Street Fighter 6 is looking really good. Didn't get to play it, so can't really comment much about it. Other than I've seen a lot of footage Max showed me. Look good, real good,
so
and look different.
Is it very adventure? Like you're wandering around a lot, or is it?
Yeah, there's a whole crazy world tour mode where you go around cities.
Oh yeah,
you go around multiple cities apparently. Maybe
that's cool as hell.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna teach you all the gameplay mechanics by doing this, by making it into like a 3D adventure game. I mean, when you load a battle, it'll be a 2D battle, right?
But yeah, but that's refreshing, and that's something that they sort of needed.
Yeah,
like they've needed to sort of reinvent the wheel a little bit. for a while. People have
Yeah,
been
and it looks like it feels and plays very different from the last couple Street Fighters. Like I wanted to like change up the flow of it and everything. So
hell yeah.
it's looking really good. I mean, they unfortunately they had their whole fucking roster leaked.
Yeah, that's kind of a
And it
bummer.
wasn't just some guy putting a list. It was like, here's the art and name of every character. Woof.
That's rough. But that's we're coming to the end of the episode, and I want to make the question for the YouTube comments. We're getting pretty good YouTube comments lately, and even though I reply to them sometimes, I don't know if my replies are the most useful. But the question, of course, is like, what's the most surprising thing that we've gotten? We don't have E3 anymore, but it feels like if we did have E3 this year, it would have been a pretty solid one.
I think we also should mention, kind of calling back to last episode. Did you see that shot across? Oh, you didn't see it because you didn't watch it.
I didn't.
There was a shot across the bow at the very last second of Summer Games Fest. Keeley said, like, we'll see you next year for Summer Games Fest. We're gonna have both a digital and an in-person event. And then a little flash card came on the bottom of the screen. Summer Games Fest 23, digital and in-person event. He's
Oh,
publicly announcing that he's going to do an in-person thing next year.
E3 is never going to recover.
And
Oh
I'm like,
man.
and I remember just looking. I'm like, did he just fire a shot across the bow at E3? I'm like, yep.
Maybe a
So
little.
I said that, and like, Chris was like, yep, he sure did.
Maybe a little. But yeah, no, let us know in comments or on Twitter what your
Yeah,
favorite.
what is the most surprising thing? It doesn't, because not necessarily the most anticipated, because everyone's gonna, especially our audience, gonna say, well, RE4 or Street Fighter 6. Yeah, I'm coming in the same boat with you there.
Yeah.
But like, what is the most surprising thing that's come out of these events?
Did you think that
And why is there no Nintendo conference?
soon? It's rumored. It's rumored.
Yeah, rumored for the very ass end of the month, which that's such a Nintendo dick move.
Yeah, it makes sense that they would do that. But
Like, we're gonna go last, like, I mean, really last. We're gonna wait till all of you have forgotten about it, and then we're go when we say we go.
yeah, it's take your ball and go home. But we've got patrons to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was Mexican Fighting Tree. Thank you so much, dude. And our producers for this episode are The Arnett, Scrunami, Kuroi35, HyperViper89, Ziggy Z, and Online Persona. Thank you, dudes, and we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.